And I think to myself that just because I got sober, life is supposed to be easy. Like I said before, I thought my problem was drugs or alcohol or sex or gambling. No, my problem is me. The reason why they say to us in the recovery rooms that you got to become sick and tired of being sick and tired, well, my mentor, my pastor says, you got to become sick of me. Become sick of yourself. And say, this is no way for me to live, and there's got to be a better way. And I say this often to you guys, is the fact that that truly, I mean, I would ask yourself, what is so valuable about you that the devil would continuously try to kill you? I mean, if you had no value, why would the addiction and the devil try to kill you? And now I don't want to get spiritually over somebody's head, but I will tell you this, that the devil is real. I don't know why I'm going down this road. I had a granddaughter ask me to pray for her on Sunday night, and we know her grandmother when we go down to Franklin in Chicago and serve rib dinners. Now, this is a bunch of junkies now. Junkies serving junkies, but one group of the junkies is sober. See, the key is we go down there, we don't serve peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We give those kings and queens that are living on the streets a full rib dinner. And this is how we met this lady. She's just a champ. Tyler was walking down the street and he was doing something, and he had walked up to her porch, but I think it was Lori, Carly, Tyler, and I were in that room together. Deb was in there with us, and she asked me, could you pray? I was involved with a Ouija board. And I was drunk, and I was involved with a Ouija board. Now, this might freak a couple of you out, but you know what? When you saw somebody doing a crappie flop because they took too big of a shot in their arm, you were freaked out, and you did a shot right after them. So don't get freaked out about this kind of stuff. But she asked me to pray for her, and I prayed for her, and I'm telling you what, I've never seen anything like it in my life. That thing flew out of her like I've never seen before. My hand hit the concrete, and I thought it broke my hand. And she started to convulse because of this thing that was in her. And that's the whole purpose of the 12 steps, is what is that thing in you that needs to come out of you? What is that pain in you that needs to come out of you? What is that anger and that resentment and that fear in you that needs to come out of here? What is that shortcoming that needs to come out of you? What is the character defect? What is that unforgiveness that needs to come out of you so you can get to a point in your life to work the 10 steps, so when you're wrong, you promptly admit it. I said it last week, and I'll say it again because I didn't know what I said, but then I watched the tape. It said the only thing about being wrong when you're wrong is when you think you're right. Could it be that for 20 years I was wrong? Could it be that I didn't think I needed a sponsor was wrong? Could it be that I think that I can just do what I want in my recovery and still get sober was wrong? Could it be that I could work the steps out of order, whatever I felt, and I'd sit in those circles in those AA, CA, CMA, GA, and NA meetings and lie about the true condition spiritually that I was in? Because I was conditioned to tell people what they wanted to hear. And if you have friends that tell you what you want to hear, they're not your friends. A true friend will tell you what you don't want to hear. A true friend, a true parent, I'll take it a step further, there's a lot of parents under the sound of my voice. A true parent will confront versus co-sign. There's nothing right about an addict not working the program. There's nothing right about an addict not working the steps. And there's certainly nothing right about an addict not having a sponsor. And the bottom line is this, that we know, and this particular reading that Steve's going to read right now, I heard it for the first time at an AA, the Anoka AA Club, and I think it was their fundraiser, their anniversary. So let's welcome Steve.
Why we were chosen. God in His wisdom selected this group of men and women to be purveyors of His goodness. Selecting them through whom to bring about this phenomenon, He went not to the proud, the mighty, the famous, or the brilliant. He went instead to the humble, to the sick, and the unfortunate. He went right to the drunkard, the so-called weakling of the world. The Almighty hath said to us, unto your weak and feeble hands I have entrusted the power of criticism you must expect. Lack of appreciation will be common. Ridicule will be no lot. Your motives will be misjudged. You must be prepared for adversity, for what men call adversity is the ladder you must use to ascend the rungs toward spiritual perfection. And remember, in the exercise of this power, I shall not exact from you beyond your capabilities. You are not selected because of exceptional talents. Be careful always if success attends your efforts, not to ascribe to personal superiority that to which you can lay claim only by virtue of my gift. If I had wanted learned men to accomplish this mission, the power would have been entrusted to the physician and the scientist. If I had wanted eloquent men, there would have been many anxious for the assignment, for talk is the easiest use of all talents with which I have endowed mankind. If I had wanted scholarly men, the world is filled better with qualified men than you who will be available. You were selected because you have been the outcasts of the world, and your long experience as drunkards has made or should make you humbly alert to the cries of distress that come from the lonely hearts of alcoholics everywhere. Keep ever in mind the admission you made on the day of your profession in AA, naming that you are powerless, and that it was only with your willingness to turn your life and will into my keeping that relief came to you.
And that's a powerful thing, and if you're truly going to do the deal, you'll come to find that not everybody's going to jump on board with you. That's why the 12 step says we tried to carry the message to other addicts or alcoholics. All you can do, you got to carry the message, you can't carry the addict. And it was on my heart tonight to just do a quick recap of, man, I'm high maintenance, I'm a pain in the butt, and I'm everything. So now this is really going to stretch me because it's on the wrong side. I just let Doug have it because I've been doing this for years on this side, but God may be telling me to go to the other side. Why do things like that throw me off? But they do. When I can't find my socks in the morning, it ruins my whole day. This morning I was out of gas, and I was late for an appointment, and then I had to go get gas, and I'm like, why didn't I? And then I was mad at her. Because I asked her last night at 1 in the morning when we got home, should I fill up with gas? She didn't say no, but I'm looking for somebody to tell me what to do. I need somebody to tell me what to do. And that's what the 12 steps are all about, is really learning that. And the first step, as you see on your sheets, says, we admitted. Now I want to just spend a moment on the word admitted. Now, you may pretend tonight that you've admitted that. Just by you being here, people may think that you have admitted this. But it could be a lie. You could still, as a secret agent, have a game plan. You might, who's a secret agent in here? Nobody knows your plans but you. You think you're part of the FBI or some CIA. If anybody gets involved with your perverted plan, then it's going to ruin your plans. But I'm grateful God ruined my plans. Are you? I'm grateful God didn't answer all my prayers. Are you? I'm grateful that this didn't work out. I'm grateful that my crack addiction took me to my knees, because that's what started this program. That's what started our church. A bunch of total knuckleheads like Steve read, misfits, outcasts of society. I'm telling you what, man, God can do in you that you would never ask or imagine. He is a man of his word. The 12 steps work if you work them. So at the end of the day, the first question I have for you this evening is, have you truly admitted that you're powerless, or is it just a game? You're just going through the motions to get somebody off your back, and you better understand that this stuff in our minds isn't just done in the conscious, it's done in the unconscious too. You may have a plan that you don't even know about. But by you not working the steps, you're going to fulfill that plan. By you not admitting, hey man, if I use, I lose. If I use, I die. You have to come to that point. And that's why AA teaches us that the first step is the only step that you have to work perfect, or as close to perfect as you know what perfect is. We admitted that we were powerless. That means this stuff whipped us. It kicked us. It it took us down a path that it wasn't in our high school yearbook. My goal in life is to be a raging crack addict. No, that was not my dreams. My goal was to get divorced, lose 4 companies, and be homeless. That was not part of my goal. But that's where my addiction took me. It took me to jails, institutions, and death. But my cocky butt said this, my first treatment, jails, institutions, and death. I'll never go to jail. I'll never be institutionalized, and I won't die. Let me tell you something. I've done all 3. What they tell you in treatment is true. The truth will not adjust itself to you. You have to adjust yourself to the truth. And just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it ain't true. Look around the room. Any of us scarred veterans can tell you that this stuff don't work unless you work it. So we need to admit to ourselves, too, that we were powerless and then our lives had become unmanageable. Now, unmanageable. Did you get here because you had it all together? No. My life was a mess, but God turned it into a message. Here we sit 12 years later. God can take your mess and turn it into a message, but God will never bless your mess unless you're ready to do something about it. So many of us want God to bless our mess, and then we don't believe He exists if He won't bless our mess. So when we talk about the unmanageability and the powerlessness, see, I was actually thinking to myself that I wanted to have a couple of syringes and pipes and bottles and casino chips and up here, but Doug didn't have enough time to do a room search at the houses, so we couldn't come up with them. So if you envision this stuff, and I don't want it to throw you over the edge because I don't ever want to tempt somebody, but if you envision the ground level is called your addiction, and all the unmanageability and all the powerlessness is here. And when you take the first step, you're one step away from that. You have just stepped away from the chaos. You have just stepped away from the unmanageability. You have just stepped away from the powerlessness. You took a step in the right direction. Now the second step says, came to believe. Now nobody can make you admit, and nobody can make you believe. We can fake that we believe, but it's up to your own personal belief. And find something to believe in other than yourself. That's why I don't like when Doug said what he said about me teaching the 12 steps. That ain't me doing it. If this had anything to do with me, every house, every contents of any house, it'd all be on pawn, and it'd be third mortgage to the hills. See, I know that about me. This isn't my deal, this is God's deal. This isn't your life, this is what God wants to do in your life. So you take a step out of your addiction, and then you take another step up, and you came to believe that a power greater than yourselves could restore you to sanity. Now, you're looking around and you can see things differently. I can see things differently 2 steps up than I can on ground level. So, while I'm up here, I start looking at people like yourselves that seem to be happy. My first inclination is this: it's a lie. They're truly not happy. They're just putting on a front. But I stick around for a minute on step 2 because I came first. I showed up. You're here tonight. Then I come to, I said, well, I can't deny it. Look at these people getting a year clean, 6 months clean, 5 years clean, 30 years clean. We got them all in the crowd tonight. We got somebody with 45 years clean here tonight that still comes to meetings. But you come to believe that a power greater than yourself could restore you to sanity. But this is where a lot of people never get beyond step 2. Because they think the insanity is the dope or the gambling or the sex or the alcohol. It's not. The insanity is in between your 2 ears. And people begin to work on external things to get back, and as soon as they get their family back, as soon as they get their money back, as soon as they get the probation officer out their butt, as soon as they don't have to be on the color wheel, as soon as all these things happen that I've experienced in my own life, then I'll be sane again. No, wherever you go, there you are. And we've been running from ourselves for years. Have you ever ran from yourself and you looked there and there you still were there? You changed jobs, women, men, dope, alcohol. I'm going to drink beer. Or, how many of you even kid yourself? Well, I'm just going to drink 3-2. I was so sick in my first marriage that I'd go buy old duels and pour real beer in them while I was taking a crack hit, and my hands were so shaky because I was so high I couldn't put the cap back on. So I walked in my house pretending like I had it all together with my wife at the time. All the bottle caps were already cracked. And by the time I got around to the beer, my wife at the time always said, "Why do you drink 12 Old Duels a night?" So now I'm coming to believe because I'm seeing what's happening in your life. And I truly am at a point now that I don't know if I believe in God, but I cannot argue with the fact that I've been around long enough to see that there is something happening in these groups. And then I take another step as I'm working with my sponsor, and I take a third step, and I made a decision. Now look at the correlation of being out of order here. Because if you admit in step one, that means you made a decision. People like us are not good at making decisions. We live the majority of our lives in limbo. And ask my wife, I'm still like it. If you ask me where do you want to go eat, I'll go into a tailspin. But the thing is, now we learned how to admit. We've got a different level of belief. And if you haven't got a belief by step 3, you cannot go to step 3. Because you can't turn your life over to something you don't believe in. And it's just one big lie that you're living. So you made a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him. Now, I'm going to point something out to you here. The fact is, and I've taught on this, but as I was studying for this today, something else came on my heart. You might have to turn your life over before, and then your will follow. Because you really can't turn your will totally over when you're full of resentments, fear, shortcomings, character defects, and a bunch of unforgiveness. It'll be difficult for you to do it. So you got to suit up and show up, and your will follow you. But the will that you need to turn over is made with the decision. That's the first sign that you turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him. Now, how can you possibly understand God when you're full of fear, resentment, character defects, and everything else? What worked for me at the time was this: how am I still alive? How did I get another chance? Now, something that is not on your sheet, and I come from the old school, and I hope it's still happening in the AA rooms, and I'm sure it is with the good sponsors. But I've been taught the old school, say old school, where they made me get on my knees to do a third step prayer. So on my sheet, I have the third step prayer. It says, "God, I offer myself to Thee." Now, if you don't think AA has anything to do with God, you're sadly mistaken. This prayer almost reminds me coming out of the King James Bible. So the first thing that stands out to me about that statement about the third step prayer is, what did I offer myself to in my addiction? Women, what did you offer yourself to? Men, who did we wake up to next to in the morning? What did it feel like when you looked at that bank account? What did it feel like when you were in jail? What did you offer yourself up to? So now the third step, God's saying you have to offer yourself up to me. To build with me and do thou wilt. Now, that means that God, I need you to build something in me so I can learn how to do your will. Relieve me from the bondage of self. What did I say earlier? We are fighting with ourselves. The bondage of self, that may manifest itself in many ways. Self-pity, guilt, condemnation, shame, anger, all these things. So it says, remove me from the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties. The difficulties are not the addiction. It's like Jim Swanson says, and when he got his medallion, I had to figure out the why behind the what. The what is my active addiction? Why do I continue to do these things that I said I wasn't going to do? And you know, I say it all the time. It's been a slogan of mine for years. If you do what you don't want to do, you're going to do what you want to do. But if you do what you want to do, you're going to end up doing what you don't want to do. So you're not going to want to do this stuff. It says, take away the difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those who I would help of thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. So you better really understand what that prayer means. That when you're down here, your addiction and your powerlessness has victory over you. But if you come up here, You have victory and power over it. And if you've made a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him, you came to believe that a power greater than yourselves could restore you to sanity. God, relieve me the bondage of self. I'm not that important. Thank you for saving me. Now my goal is to help try to save somebody else. Another thing is about victory. I'll tell you, people that are victims, they feel like this world has... There's nothing more dangerous than an addict with entitlement. I should not have a job. I certainly should not be part of a church. I certainly should not be part of a recovery program. I certainly shouldn't be married. I certainly shouldn't even be able to see my kids. Because I sold dope and smoked crack when they were babies in my car. And I be that honest with you because I don't regret it now. That's what had to happen to bring me to my knees. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. But as we go to the fourth step now you look down and you say, hey, there's my powerlessness. Hey, that's where my belief started and I'm starting to be restored to sanity. Hey, that's where I made my decision. Boy, I wish I could just quit now. But no. In order for me to get closer to God, now you take notice,